Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the established evidence and the sheer procedural friction surrounding a truly high-profile missing persons case that continues to baffle authorities. It's a story that has completely captured national attention, not just because of the public figure connected to it, but because of the deeply puzzling, almost unbelievable circumstances left in its wake.
All right, let's just jump right in and anchor ourselves to one staggering number, 100. It has been over 100 days since 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, who you probably know is the mother of Today's Show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, literally just vanished from her home. When you think about a full 100 days passing in a modern investigation with all the cutting-edge technology available to law enforcement today, it really underscores the depth of this mystery.
To make sense of it all, we're going to break this explainer down chronologically. We'll hit the 100-day milestone, the night of the disappearance, the evidence so far, that tense local versus federal dispute, and finally, the ongoing search. Let's start with Part 1, the 100-day milestone. So let's look at exactly where we stand right now. Since February 1st, investigators have treated Nancy's Tucson area home as an active crime scene, making it very clear they believe she was taken against her will. This was never treated as a simple case of someone just wandering off. Now, over 3 months later, the search is still highly active. But incredibly, there are 0 publicly identified suspects, no arrests. It's at a complete standstill in the public eye.
Moving on to Part 2, the night of the disappearance.
To really grasp the complexity here, we have to look back at those chaotic initial hours. Our timeline kicks off on February 1st when she was reported missing and the crime scene was locked down. But overnight, someone actively tampered with a doorbell camera at the house. And it actually took weeks before the FBI released that surveillance footage, which frankly completely shifted our understanding of what happened that night. Because that tampered camera gave authorities a very specific, though still totally unidentified, profile. We're looking at a masked male, medium build, standing about 5'9" to 5'10". But get this, the most granular detail, he was carrying an Ozark Trail hiker backpack. It's one of those ultra-specific clues investigators are praying will jog someone's memory, but so far, it hasn't led to an arrest. That brings us to Part 3, the evidence so far. Beyond that blurry footage, the physical evidence paints a pretty grim picture. Authorities have actually confirmed they are actively looking at ransom notes connected to her disappearance. Think about how that changes the whole game. Ransom notes firmly categorize this as a targeted abduction. It totally shifts the motive and changes the entire playbook for law enforcement. And then there's the forensics, which are honestly a double-edged sword right now. Blood recovered from the home was confirmed to be Nancy's, tragically confirming she was harmed at the scene. But they also found separate DNA, processed it through the FBI, and got absolutely 0 database matches. It's a massive dead end. They literally have the biological blueprint of whoever else was there, but no name to attach it to in the federal system. Let's look at Part 4, the local versus federal dispute. As days turned into months, the spotlight kind of shifted toward the investigators themselves. We've got 2 starkly different narratives here about those crucial early days. On one hand, FBI Director Kash Patel claims federal authorities were shut out of the investigation for 4 whole days. On the other hand, the Pima County Sheriff's Department firmly insists that an FBI task force member was on the scene right away. It's a real point of bureaucratic friction that's become a huge part of the story. Director Patel actually aired out his frustration on a May 5th podcast, stressing that, quote, "The first 48 hours of anyone's disappearance are the most critical." His stance is basically that massive federal resources were sidelined exactly when they were needed the absolute most. But flip that over, and you've got the local authorities pushing back hard. The Pima County Sheriff's Department publicly stated, quote, "While the FBI director was not on scene, coordination with the Bureau began without delay." They are standing their ground, saying they worked hand in hand with both the FBI task force and the family from minute 1. And this friction even spilled over into the forensics. Patel openly questioned why local cops sent DNA samples to a private lab in Florida instead of the FBI's lab in Quantico, which he called the best lab in the world, especially when federal planes were standing by. The local sheriff's department, though, they just point to the end result, highlighting that the DNA was ultimately run through the FBI database, even if it didn't find a match. Finally, Part 5, the ongoing search. Because despite all that back and forth, the core mission is still laser-focused on finding Nancy.
Right now, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says he's communicating through official detectives and the FBI, not directly with the family. And still, absolutely no arrests or persons of interest. Meanwhile, local law enforcement is keeping a super tight lid on the Guthrie property, maintaining strict security and enforcing a no trespassing rule to protect the scene and give the family some much-needed privacy. So we're left staring at this massive puzzle. We've got a confirmed ransom note, concrete blood evidence, and surveillance footage of a masked guy carrying a very specific backpack. Yet, nobody is in custody, and that DNA is just a ghost in the system. So what's it going to take to finally break this 100-day silence? What is that one overlooked clue that will finally bring answers to the Guthrie family? It really makes you realize how incredibly complex these cases are and why every single detail matters. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and keep your eyes open.